At the precise instant of India's arrival at independence, on the stroke of midnight, I tumbled forth into the world. Well, you know, before I knew anything about the big story of it, I thought I wanted to write a book that came out of childhood, you know, that came out of my childhood, growing up in Bombay, in India. And so that was the germ of it, was just to, and then, of course, I'm a little bit older than the children in the film. I mean, only 8 weeks older, but we were all born around this time of the independence of India. So it was a story about childhood in that moment, in the immediate aftermath of the end of the British Empire and of a new country coming into being. So that was the germ of it. And then at a certain point I realized that if these children were going to be born at the exact moment of India's independence, then in a way the two main characters, the two boys in the center of the story, they and the country are sort of twins, you know, and so I thought we have to tell the story of both the twins, you know, both the child and the country.
So many babies. Oh, give it to me.
Mary knew she was condemning the rich-born boy to a life of poverty. Let the rich be poor, and the poor rich. You know, I love movies. I come from, you know, Bombay is a movie city. I always thought it would be nice if this could be a movie. And I think that the great challenge of it as a film is that there are parts of it that are, you know, epic, parts of it which are kind of very big screen moments, you know, battle scenes, this and that. And there are other parts of it which are very, very intimate, you know, which have to do with individuals and their dramas and so on. And that, try and combine these very intimate moments with these much grander, more epic moments, you know, that was the challenge of the film.
I think that different filmmakers have different ways that they reach into an adaptation, and we all know that I'm always aware of what I call the adaptation police, you know. They're sort of lurking around and saying, oh my God, you're going to catch it. But I realized earlier on that I would really like to, that if I focused on the personal story, then the bigger canvas would emerge instead of it being the other way around. And Bueno, who's one of my favorite directors in the world, said something that I've started to really respect, and especially with this film. He said that the minute we are specific is the very minute we get universal. So I sort of wanted to focus on the specificity of Midnight's Children and then let it grow from there.
I, Salim Sinai, mysteriously handcuffed to history, my destiny forever chained to my country's.
Great things in store for you, my son.
Salman and myself had a great time. He was easy, he was smart. We all know he's smart, okay? But he's got a great sense of humor, and also he's a very generous person. And he understands that a movie is not a book. And to be faithful to the book and would be making a film that was 8 hours long. And it had to be an interpretation of the book. And if it was true in its essence, that's what he was concerned about.
We actually managed to go through 4 years working on the film without having a fight. That's, you know, anybody who's ever been involved with the movies knows how unusual that is. We had very similar ideas from the beginning. When we started talking about how the film should look and where it should go, so on, we had very similar ideas about it, and that made it easier. Very early on made the decision that we would not go to one of the big studios, you know, and that we would take the harder route of trying to finance it independently. Because had we gone to the big studios, we'd probably got the money more easily, and we might even have got more money. But we would have lost creative control, and we might have had decisions imposed on us about casting, about scripting, about all sorts of things. And we didn't want that, you know. So in the end, it ended up, there were literally 3 people. There was the producer, David Hamilton, and there was Deepa and me. And if we agreed that we wanted to go in a certain direction, that's the direction we went in, you know. And to have that creative control, that was a wonderful feeling.
Salim, we were born then in that first hour. We're like you.
All of you?
Yes. All of us.
How can I hear you all?
Salim has the greatest gift of all. He's the only one who can bring us all together.
I'm very familiar familiar with many actors, not only in the Bombay film industry, but also in Indian theatre and also in Indian musicals. You know, there's a whole wide range of talent in India. So I made a short list of about 5 or 6 people that I thought were interesting. And at one point, Salman was in Bombay, so we got to meet quite a number of them together. And I mean, the great thing about working with actors is that I'm always open to what they will bring on board. And then I feel if they bring something on board which I haven't thought about, but it works for me, it really helps the character. And everybody should be invested in the character. But finally, I have to be the one who says, okay, this is the definition of it, because it can, you know, go over the board or whatever. We do very intensive rehearsals. That's something I believe in. So it was during the rehearsal process that all the Saleems become one, or the timeline, you know, from the young Saleem to the teenage Saleem to the older Saleem has a through line. So you see that there's some gestures, for example, in the 10-year-old Saleem that Satya, who plays the older Saleem, had not even come on set, but we had rehearsed together. So I said, okay, Satya, watch what the younger one does. And so even when he's older, you know, it's the way he wipes his eyes. He does the same.
When I told you I heard voices in my head, you didn't believe me.
Are you okay, Saleem? Because I think you're a little bit off your head.
Martial law is imposed with immediate effect. Therefore, on my command, we assume control of the state.
The real life of India, you know, in which you have these great extremes of wealth and poverty. And it was sort of really necessary to look at both of those, and then to show how two lives, the lives of these two boys, you know, are affected by this great disparity. You know, some people brought up with great privilege, other people brought up with none at all. You know, and how those two worlds can collide with each other. You know.
It's got a feeling of Gone with the Wind. It's that kind of epicness, isn't it?
Well, I think, you know, you could say that it's, yes, because that again is a film which it sets individual human beings against a big historical event, in that case, the American Civil War. But yeah, so there it has that, you know, Dr. Zhivago. I mean, there are these films which do that, which take individual lives and show how they are shaped by greater events.
Logistically, it was very difficult to pull off, but I think, you know, beauty lies in detail, and it's the detail of the design which actually makes the film sing. Because we could have had and we do have really, Giles is an amazing cinematographer, and we've got great editors, but I think it's the design, and I think really do believe that it's Dileep's design that adds that continuity to the whole film. And then you have, like 30 years later, a piece of furniture which was in the grandfather's house. From the back of your, you know, you can see it somewhere that Saleem's holding it. So it's that, you know, being a part and parcel of it, and everything feeling organic and authentic. That was what was very important.
Don't you all see everything else is breaking apart? We can show people a new way of being.
The difference when we see Saleem with the Midnight Children and that beautiful sort of soft focusing.
Yes.
And I wondered how you created that effect. Was it a practical thing, or was it something that you did in post, really?
That was post. That was definitely post. That you know, I really wanted. We had to do that effect in you know, with CGI or. But I knew I wanted it to be very subdued. It couldn't be over the top, and I didn't want the film to look like X-Men, you know. They're these little kids. I mean, they're supposed to be special. How do you make kids look special without them looking otherworldly? That was important. You know, the magic realism had to lean more towards realism.
I think anyone who sees the film will see that the people making the film have a really deep love for the subject and the place that it's about, you know. And I think for both Deepa and me, I think that it came out of that spirit of love for India, you know, and of course the cast approached it in that same spirit too. So there's, I think, a lot of love in the film.
And creatively, as I mentioned there, you do get to narrate. So what was that like for you artistically to have put your stamp on?
Little scary. Little scary. I mean, I was worried whether I was going to be able to pull that off or not. And we reserved the right that, I mean, I said if it makes me cringe with embarrassment, then I'm going to get an actor. But as it happens, I think people liked it, so we stuck with it.
A child and a country were born at midnight, once upon a time. And our lives have been, in spite of everything, acts of love.